Welcome to State House Rock. I'm Policy Specialist Ryan Roth. The legislature returned to Springfield this week for the first time since March 18th. Numerous session dates were canceled due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. During the hiatus, legislators met in a number of working groups to determine priority legislation. This week, General Assembly leaders plan to consolidate appropriations, a few pieces of priority legislation, and COVID-19 related issues into a few very large bills, pass them, and then adjourn. The House took over the Bank of Springfield Center to conduct its business, while the Senate met at the Capitol. Only a handful of senators were allowed on the floor at the time, with the rest monitoring session from their State House offices. Public access to legislators was severely restricted, which hampered the ability of lobbyists and the general public to weigh in on legislation and limited the media's ability to cover each day's events. On Wednesday, legislators assigned to the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules declined to approve Governor Pritzker's emergency rule, which would have made it a Class A misdemeanor for non-essential businesses to open up in violation of the stay-at-home order. The same day, a group of protesters gathered outside of the Bank of Springfield Center to protest the shutdown and urge a reopening of the state. GOP leader Jim Durkin was spotted chastising a pair of protesters whose sign compared Pritzker to Hitler. Before beginning their business, the House adopted rules requiring all members to wear masks while on the floor. After adoption of the rules, GOP Representative Darren Bailey, who has filed several lawsuits against the governor's shutdown orders, refused to don a mask and was removed from the floor on a bipartisan vote. Earlier this month, Governor Pritzker proposed a new rule stating if an essential worker contracted COVID-19, it was rebuttably assumed to be acquired at work. In concert with many of the state's business groups, we opposed this rule. In response to a lawsuit, the governor dropped the proposed rule. A greatly modified version of the proposal, House Bill 2455, was passed by the General Assembly. House Bill 2455 applies to all first responders, frontline workers, medical personnel, and other essential businesses who interact with the public or work in a facility with 15 or more individuals. It rebuttably assumes those who contract COVID-19 did so at work, but prohibits insurers from increasing workers' compensation rates. Claims can be rebutted if the employee was working from home or on leave for 14 consecutive days prior to the injury, or the employer implemented and enforced all safety and social distancing practices to the fullest extent possible for at least 14 days prior to the injury, or it can be proven the virus was contracted someplace other than the workplace. House Bill 2455 only applies if the person was diagnosed by a medical professional and is set to expire on December 31st of 2020. We opposed House Bill 5769, which required all employers to stockpile PPE for any emergency ever to befall the human race, lest they be sued for damages. This bill was not heard for a vote. A number of bills extended the sunsets of various acts for 1 year, including Senate Bill 1857, which extended single prime contractor provisions, and Senate Bill 1530, which extended the mechanics lien law. Both bills are expected to pass the legislature and be signed by the governor. The capital program will be fully funded to allow the state to capture as many federal dollars as are possible in the next fiscal year. Adjustments will be made should funds fall short. The state budget bill, Senate Bill 264, held spending to FY 2020 levels and relies on borrowing from the federal government to make up the revenue shortfall created by the pandemic. Proponents are hopeful that the measures taken will not negatively impact the state's bond rating. The Operating Engineers Local 150 proposed several constitutional amendments prohibiting right-to-work laws and making unionization a protected right, but those bills have not been passed by the General Assembly and will not make it on the ballot this November. Governor Pritzker recently stated the entire state has met the criteria to move to Phase 3 of his Reopen Illinois plan when the current executive order expires on May 29th. This means state parks will reopen and restaurants and bars will be able to serve people at outdoor facilities. Tables at restaurants and bars will have to be at least 6 feet apart and masks should be worn. Boating, picnics, and other outdoor activities are permitted in groups of 10 or less. Barbers and hair salons will be able to reopen too. Local governments may enforce their own requirements. Chicago, for example, is not expected to allow its restaurants to reopen on May 29th. Governor Pritzker also announced the creation of a number of industry-specific working groups focused on reopening Illinois. Construction and professional services were included on the list. That's it for this edition of State House Rock. Thank you for watching.